Day 3, welcome back to Jog to Gin. So today we started our day with looking at a location that is near a watering point. Okay, why does that matter? Well, that matters because animals like to congregate close to water. I mean, that seems like common sense, right? But then how does that impact the land? Well, if they're congregating more in a specific area, they're probably also grazing more in a specific area. So we were especially focusing on looking at grazing patterns also and seeing what kind of grasses are available for this plot. I mean, everything else too, like this plot shows some bush encroachment patterns like we've talked about. But yeah, so that's just something interesting to note, is what kind of variables might play a role in how the landscape might look and react to things. And a variable like water source will definitely play a role. So we have to make sure we think about that and include that in our findings. Okay, so two things we want to talk about here is, number one, if you can see behind all these grevias, this is the mapiepie, which is its indigenous name, or the stinkvetrat in Afrikaans, or its scientific name Boscia. What is it? Boscia?
Boscia albitrunca.
Boscia albitrunca. I'll get it. But anyway, so how we can identify this is obviously it's very characteristic in its stem, but look at these tiny little baby leaves. Yeah, so that's the mapiepie tree. The reason it's called stink, which is stink in Afrikaans, is because certain times of the year, I'm not sure which times, but it gives off a really weird kind of stinky odor. So that's why it's the stinkvetrat. As you can tell, it's a very, very beautiful tree. And the reason I wanted to specifically talk about this tree in this case is that you can tell, back up a little bit, this is one of the most intense examples of bush encroachment I've seen. It's completely encircling. I can't even count, probably over 25 different grevias encroaching on this tree. And we can't villainize particular species because it's a natural ecological process, but it is a shame to see such a beautiful tree, such as the mapiepie tree, and being encroached upon so intensely. Yeah, and I'm not sure of the mapiepie's exact ecological value, but it definitely has some. Plus, it's beautiful to look at, and it's a shame that it's being so heavily encroached upon. So yeah, that's some more about this. And I honestly want to say, the most intense example of bush encroachment I've seen. And throughout the last few days, we've noticed kind of the patterns of the bush encroachment. Either it comes on a kind of a straight line, or it takes on a circle. And in this case, it completely encircles it. And it's not right next to the tree. It's kind of, 2-3 meters out from the base of the tree. And that could be potentially, I mean, I don't for sure know, but potentially it could be because of the root systems of the tree. Because it's such a mature and large tree, the grevias want to take the nutrients from its roots, which wouldn't be right next to it because it's so large and grown. It would be kind of towards the outside. So that's what I'm suspecting is the reason for the pattern of encroachment on this tree. But no way to make a full conclusion on that right now, but that's my observation, and we'll see. We're getting close to being done with this farm, but we've had quite an eventful day, so we've been moving at a little bit of a slower pace. First, we came across a gnarly, what's it, aardvark in English? Aardvark? Yes, aardvark hole in the road, and we have to cover it up because it'll kill someone's tires or crash the trucks. So we spent about half an hour with our feet, because we didn't have a shovel, covering that up. So that was a fun endeavor. It was about 4 meters long. We put the spotlight in there to see. Nothing in there, but took a while. We were meandering around in the field looking for things. Did some of our plots at the one with that big tree that was being encroached upon. But now we've moved down closer to where the river is. So where this farm is on the river bordering Botswana, so between South Africa and Botswana. And the farm sits at a bit of a downhill gradient. So any sort of water runoff eventually comes this way. And it's also on the downslope from the agricultural field. So any things that are flowing down from there come here. So it changes the ecosystem quite a bit. Number one, I didn't specifically show the soils in the last section of the farm, but up there it's more like red sandy soil, which you would think is very like stereotypical of Africa. And then up here you can see, put some dirt here, it's kind of clay, rocky, like dark, so it is like a different characteristic than what we see up in the other parts of the farm. And with that also changes the types of trees that grow. So the primary tree we find up here is, that we're finding right now at least, is the black thorn. And I'm not sure why it grows more here. I'll have to ask the expert when I get back. But it could be because it is more disturbed, or maybe the water drainage, and it grows better in kind of the soil that's here, and also with all the sitting water, it could be a contributing factor. Another thing that we noticed here is that the soils of trees and also the grasses. So up there we've mostly seen things like curly leaf. I think we did a video on that, things like that. But when we get up here, show some grasses here. This is a, wait, let me show this one. This is a vlei bristle, if it'll show. So as you can see the characteristics of it, it has two like spokes that come out here. And it also kind of looks like the curly leaf because it has the curls all in the bush. So that was a fun little challenge. And then we also have, wat was die ander een wat ons daar gesê het? Turf grass. Oh no, this was turf grass. Sorry everybody, I'm lying. This was the turf grass. This was the vlei bristle. Right here. You can see in my hand. Comes kind of out in a straight line like that. But yeah, it's interesting to see, even in a 250 hectare span, which is math, about 600 acres. It's really not that much for so much ecosystem change, right? Or so you would think, but that's just to speak on savanna heterogeneity and big differences. But we're going to move on a little bit closer to the river, and we will be back. Okay, we have moved down to the fence where the river is, and something I wanted to point out, I mean, we just talked about how ecosystems changed, but if we look at these trees, they are way bigger than the ones we see up in the red sandy soil and more where it's dry, number one. And why that could be is, I mean, my guess, and I'll have to confirm this, but because of the fact that this is kind of the bottom of the hill, like the whole farm running down, I mean, not just this farm, obviously, because the land doesn't care about fences, but all of this region, it kind of flows down this way towards the river. So if that's the case, that means that these these trees and these plants have more access to nutrients in the soil that maybe the more drier plants don't. And another thing to observe is like the mapiepie trees and the mapiepie trees that we were pointing out earlier, they don't seem to be growing down here. So that could be something characteristic of I talked about the black thorns growing more down here, and these are also, we're trying to identify some of these trees because they're so huge. It's hard to get up there and see their leaves. So we're working on IDing some of these, and we haven't seen any of the silver raisins specifically that we see up more towards the red sandy area. And that's not to say that there's not bush encroachment happening, because I know there's been clearing efforts within the last week even. You can see here, this is what it looks like. They bring in, I'm in the way, they bring in a mulcher and munch all the shrubs down to be able to clear it out for the other vegetation to grow. So at this point, we're just trying to figure out what kind of species are being problematic in this particular area, and also looking at some of the trees because they might be different from what we're seeing down there. So we will be back with an update. Okay, so we're done day 3 of the field plots. Not the field plots, looking at this farm. We're done day 3 looking at this farm. But on our way back, Autumn pointed out a super awesome tree for the tree lovers. I'm a tree lover. I didn't know what it looked like, but it's called a leadwood tree, and it's very notorious in Africa. It was used to make rail ties, right? It was used to make rail ties, and really expensive, high class, good quality furniture. I was actually talking to Marissa's grandpa Whit, shout out Marissa and Whit, about leadwood the other day, and we were wondering why people don't make boats out of it. Maybe because it's, I don't know, whatever. But it's called leadwood for a reason, and Autumn's going to tell you more about it because I don't really know a whole ton about it. So I'm passing it over to Autumn, and he's going to talk while I show you the tree.